This is a B6 video from the topic Inheritance, Variation and Evolution, and this time we're looking at evolution and Darwin's theory of natural selection. So sometimes we get mutations, okay, and sometimes those mutations are so minor we don't even see an impact of them, okay. So we've got the genetic information, we've got all of those base pairs, and sometimes, just like a spelling mistake, we can still work out what the word is. Sometimes with those base pairs, we can get a slight error, but actually it doesn't affect the trait that is represented, the phenotype. But sometimes those mutations are significant enough that a new trait or feature is present in that offspring. Okay, so sexual reproduction, we get characteristics from both parents. However, there's also other variation due to this mutation. Okay, mutations are always occurring, and we see changes in species over time due to these mutations adapting to their environment. So if one of those mutations is provides a trait that is not useful, maybe it's shorter legs or weaker muscles, then that particular organism isn't going to be able to run fast to get the food, so it's going to die out and it won't pass on its features. However, if it's a useful feature, it will live longer and pass it on to its offspring. Now, scientists believe that evolution is this change in inherited characteristics over time, a process called natural selection. Natural because no one's intervening, we're not getting involved like we would if it was selective breeding, it's just happening naturally. And scientists believe that all species evolved from simple life forms billions of years ago through the processes of natural selection. And Darwin came up with this theory of natural selection, which he referred to as survival of the fittest. So he said that if an offspring is born with a mutation that is beneficial, for example, if we look at the giraffe being born with a longer neck so it can reach food that other giraffes can't get to, he said that that animal will be a better competitor, live longer, reproduce and pass that gene on to its offspring. And as I said before, if the mutation is not beneficial, the organism will die before it has a chance to pass on that genetic trait. So if we're looking at this as a 3 or 4 mark question of what is natural selection, if the mutation is beneficial, the animal will be a better competitor. That's your first mark. If it's a better competitor, it will live longer, second mark, and then it will reproduce and pass on that gene to its offspring. Okay, third mark. Now, what Darwin did is he went to the Galapagos Islands and he looked at the finch. And the big picture there, bottom left, is of a finch. And these finches went to different islands in the Galapagos and they had to adapt by natural selection to their environment. So some of the islands had nuts and seeds. So if you had a long, thin beak, it would be really hard to crack those nuts and seeds, so that would be a feature that would fade away. And the ones that were born with the shorter beaks that were more sturdy and able to crush those seeds were the ones that adapted, lived longer, passed on those genes to their offspring. Okay, so we can see bottom right there in the corner is a heavy bill to crush the seeds. Now, if we look at the very top picture, we can see that that finch has adapted to the island it lived on, getting insects that were often under bark. Okay, so they're getting really thin gaps in the bark, trying to get the insects out. So that long beak is really useful at getting in those crevices, okay, whereas the short beak for crushing seeds wouldn't be any good there. So they all adapted to their food sources on their individual islands and eventually became new species. And that leads us on to the theory of speciation, which is triple content, so therefore in a different video. But just to clarify there, they started off from that original finch. They all became isolated in their different islands in the Galapagos, and then they adapted through those mutations. So this takes a long time. It's not an instant thing. It happens over generations and generations. And we see these small mutations that create better features, allow the animal to live longer, reproduce, and then pass that trait on to its offspring. Okay, hope you found that useful. Thank you.